brainstorming is to get any idea that might make sense down. The next step is to pare down what we've come up with so that it's manageable. Some of you have lists that are very long and some have lists that are shorter. What we know is too much information in a 20-minute presentation or even a 45-minute presentation can overwhelm the audience. So what's more important is to figure out, is there a way that we can pull that information together so that it tells a good story? And that's the key part. Your job as a presenter is to tell a story that is compelling and connected to your audience. You're not just reciting facts and bullet points. You're actually telling a story that motivates people. So you can achieve the speaking purpose you identified with. You want them to know something, do something, and feel something. So we must think about what the story is. And if you think about it, every story has a structure. Structure is what holds a story together. Have any of you ever heard a presenter who just rambles on? Hopefully I'm not that person. Yes? Show me. Many of you have. You're not. Right, who just rambles on. It makes it really hard for your audience. Your job is to make your audience comfortable and make it easy for them to understand what you're saying. I'm not saying what you're saying is easy, and I'm not saying you dumb down your content for them. What I am saying is you need to set them up for success by telling them a story that they can follow. And the way we do that is through structure. But we do not believe that structure is something you impose on your content. You say, it's going to be this way. That's the problem with slides. When all you do is create slides, the structure becomes the order of the slides. That's not what we're talking about. We're saying create a story. And there's some very common structures that stories fall under. If you flip to the next page in your packets, it is a page that talks about common structures. And I want to walk through these structures, and my hunch is that most of the brainstorming you came up with will fit naturally into one of these structures. So we brainstorm, and then we try to pare it down by seeing if it will fit into a reasonable structure. So let me walk through these very quickly. You'll see on that sheet that we give you an example, and then we show you how the points line up. So the very first structure is one we're all familiar with. It's what's called a sequential or chronological structure. First, second, third. A recipe is a chronological or sequential structure. It could be past, present, future. Satish, I don't know if this makes sense for you, but part of what you told me said people are coming with expectations of what was said in the past, and they want to know where you're going. That immediately makes me think sequential. It doesn't mean it's the right answer, but it would make sense. You're going to talk about here's what you heard last year, here's where we are now, and here's where we're going in the future. That's a logical story that came out of the demands of the audience and the content. Might not be what you choose, but that's an example of how we come up with a structure. Another structure there is my favorite structure. I love this structure, and I'm the kind of person that would like a structure. Most of you have never thought about this before, but I love this structure. It's called what, so what, now what. In this structure, you start by telling the people what. What is it? So I'm going to use yours, Phoebe, with my limited knowledge of what it is. So you have some kind of tool where you do surveys, right? Okay, so that's the what. We have this tool. Here's what it does. Here's how it does it. So what is why is it important? So you probably have a whole bunch of reasons why doing these surveys are important. Okay? And then now what is what do you want people to do? It's the call to action. So fill out the survey, come up with your action plans, whatever. So it's a very natural story. What? That's what we're talking about. So what? And now what? I don't know, Michael, that might be a really, that might be a really useful structure for your presentation. Okay? The next structure in that list is comparison contrast. And in comparison contrast, you take one existing idea or concept and compare it to another. Okay? And I don't know that anybody's here really lends itself to that. You might have a little bit of comparison and contrast with benefits where you're comparing what NVIDIA does to what other people might expect. So you might do that. There might be a story there that you can tell. Then probably the most popular structure, and this is the most persuasive structure, is problem, solution, benefit. This is where you're explaining a problem, you talk about how you solve that problem, and then the benefits to the people. And actually, Allison, that's really right in line with what you and I were talking about, yours. And sometimes a problem isn't a problem, it's an opportunity, right? So it's not that there's a problem with this, but there's an opportunity or a missed opportunity. Here's how we solve it, and here's the benefits to it. And you can actually invert that structure. You could start with the benefits. Wouldn't it be great if, that's the benefits, But what's in the way of us achieving that? That's the problem. And then the solution of how you achieve those benefits. So they don't always have to go problem, solution, benefit. It can go benefits, problem, solution, right? That tends to be very persuasive. I'm thinking that structure might make sense for yours, right? It sort of lines up with that. And again, notice that the way I'm able to say, oh, I think the structure will work for you or the structure will work for you is based on what I saw you brainstorm and what you told me about what your audience needs. And that the structure comes, we call that organically arising from the content. Do you think if the structure comes organically, it's easier to tell? Yes. And it's more authentic, right? And then that final structure there, you need to have the miscellaneous one, right? This is called topical. And this is where there's no real reason that anything goes together except that it's all on the same topic. The benefits one could be topical. It could be. That's probably where that one would land.
It's such a wide array of offerings that it's supposed to...
Right, exactly. So here's your challenge now. Look at what you brainstormed, look at your speaking purpose, and think, what structure makes the most sense for me? And you can try two on, see which one you like. Remember, you're the one who has to speak this presentation, so find a structure that works. Here's what we're going to ask you to do. Earlier in the morning, I said we very much believe in outlines. We don't believe in writing things out word for word. The very next worksheet that you have, is an outline. It's a very simple outline form. Right? You do not need to copy your speaking goal on it again, although you could if you want, just so you keep it in mind. You'll see it says key point 1, key point 2, key point 3. If you choose the sequential structure, for example, in Satish, I'm not picking on you, nor am I saying you have to use this, but what he might do is for key point 1, he would write, at last year's GTC, we committed to X. Okay? That's all. That would be his key point. And then you would go into more detail. Key point 2 would be, here's where we are today on this particular topic. And then key point 3 would be, here's the roadmap for the future. Right? He's smiling because I just wrote his, I think. He's thinking like, I'm done. I get break early. There we go. Great. Okay. So you might pick problem, solution, benefit. So in your case, what you might do is key point 1 is problem. In one clear and concise sentence, state the problem you're solving. Then the solution. In one clear and concise sentence, state the solution. And then key point 3 is the benefit. In one sentence. You'll give more detail, but in one sentence, you give us the benefit. If you're doing what, so what, now what? What is, the survey tool exists, blah, blah, blah. So what? Here's why. So we want one clear and concise sentence for the key point that reflects the structure that you chose. Does that make sense? So your assignment now, in the next 5 minutes, or less, depending on how long it takes, is to write key point 1, key point 2, key point 3, one clear and concise sentence. I don't just want you to write past, present, future. I want you to write a sentence that captures the past, or captures the present, captures the future. We're building your story. Every story has chapters in it. You're writing your chapters. Does that make sense? Okay, so go ahead and do that, and we'll walk around if you need any help. There is no way to get this right, and there is no way to get this wrong. It's what you think is best, given what you know about your audience and your content. Okay? Thank you.